What happens when your heart is shattered by the one you trusted most? Sarah Bennett stood in her Malibu mansion, where the ocean waves whispered promises of happiness, yet her soul felt as cold as stone. Pregnant with her first child, she once dreamed of a perfect family, until she uncovered the cruel secret hidden by her husband, the millionaire William Carter. Her pain ignited a fierce flame, driving her to devise a revenge plan no one could foresee. This is a story of betrayal, resilience, and the fight to reclaim freedom. Are you ready to dive in? All right, my dear viewers, brace yourselves for a story that will leave you speechless. Take just a moment to like this video, subscribe, and drop a comment below to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always thrilling to see someone join us from all corners of the globe. Sarah Bennett stood before the floor-to-ceiling window in her lavish Malibu mansion, where the Pacific Ocean waves crashed against the rocks, weaving a wordless symphony of wealth. The sunset painted the water gold, its glow reflecting off the glass walls, yet it couldn't warm her chilled heart. As the wife of William Carter, the notorious real estate tycoon, Sarah once believed she was living a dream, a fairy tale where she was the princess and William, the prince of towering skyscrapers. Pregnant with their first daughter, she felt her life was perfect, like the million-dollar abstract paintings in the living room, each brushstroke a promise of eternal happiness. The sprawling mansion, with its marble-lined hallways and soaring ceilings, stood as a monument to success. The interiors were meticulously curated, velvet armchairs from Italy, crystal chandeliers sparkling like stars. Sarah's wardrobe was a museum of fashion, brimming with haute couture dresses and glittering high heels, gifts from William to transform her into the prized jewel of his empire. He called her his diamond, and she had once smiled, convinced it was love. Each morning, she walked through the garden overflowing with white roses, her hand gently cradling her belly, where her little girl grew day by day. She envisioned a radiant future, children's laughter echoing through the house, family vacations in Hawaii, and William's gaze always fixed on her, brimming with pride. But beneath the flawless facade, an unease simmered in Sarah's heart. The stillness of the house, once a haven of peace, now felt oppressive, as if the walls whispered secrets she couldn't yet hear. William, with his charming smile and warm voice, had changed. His eyes, once alight when they met hers, now drifted elsewhere, distant and cold. Intimate candlelit dinners grew rare, replaced by rushed apologies about late meetings in Los Angeles or sudden trips to San Francisco. He remained gentle, still showered her with extravagant gifts, a Hermes bag, pearl earrings, but those gestures now felt mechanical, more duty than devotion. Sarah tried to dismiss her thoughts. She told herself it was just the pressure of work, that a man like William, with a real estate empire stretching from the West Coast to the East, couldn't avoid moments of distance. She focused on the joy of impending motherhood, the moments when she felt her daughter's gentle kicks. She picked pastel colors for the nursery, dreaming of nights rocking her baby to sleep and days strolling along Malibu's beaches. But each night, lying alone in the king-size bed, the house's silence weighed on her. It was no longer a sanctuary but a gilded prison, trapping her in illusions of happiness. Deep within Sarah, a small crack began to form, fragile yet sharp. She couldn't name the feeling, but it grew with each averted glance from William, each forced smile he offered. The mansion, with all its opulence, had become a cage, and Sarah, though she didn't yet realize it, stood on the threshold of a brutal truth. The love she once believed was everlasting might just be a beautiful painting, stunning but hollow. Betrayal didn't crash in like a storm, sweeping everything away in an instant. It seeped slowly, like droplets trickling through cracks in stone, silent but ruthless. In the opulent Malibu mansion, Sarah Bennett felt the fracture, though she tried to deny it. Each morning she stood by the window, watching the Pacific waves crash against the shore, her hand gently cradling her belly, where her little girl was growing. But the joy of impending motherhood was now shrouded by a nameless unease, like a shadow trailing her through her own home. William Carter, the husband who once set Sarah's heart ablaze with his confident smile and sweet promises, had become a stranger cloaked in familiarity. He was often absent, citing endless meetings in Manhattan or sudden business trips to Miami. "Work, darling," he'd say, his voice warm but stripped of the sincerity that once melted her. Sarah tried to trust him, tried to dismiss the feeling that his words were a thin veneer masking a bitter truth. She told herself a man like William, who commanded a real estate empire spanning America, must face pressures she couldn't fully grasp. But each time he left, abandoning her to the stifling silence of the house, her heart ached a little more. One afternoon, while sorting William's clothes in the laundry room, Sarah paused at a white dress shirt. She brought it close, and a foreign scent hit her. Sweet vanilla blended with warm amber, not her perfume. Her heart skipped, as if she'd misstepped on an invisible staircase. She stood frozen, clutching the shirt, her mind spinning. Was she imagining it? Or was this the trace of another woman, someone who'd stood closer to William than she had during his absences? She hung the shirt back, trying to banish the thought, but a seed of doubt took root, burrowing deep into her soul. That doubt grew through small, sharp details. William's phone, once an open book where she could glance at family photos or work messages, was now locked tight. He'd set a new password, and whenever she was near, he tilted the screen away, as if guarding a secret too heavy to share. Sarah felt like a guest in her own marriage, pushed out of William's world without explanation. She began noticing subtle shifts. The way he avoided her gaze when talking about his day. The way his answers to her questions were clipped. Lifeless. Each moment was an invisible dagger, slicing into the trust she'd once placed in him. One night when pregnancy insomnia kept Sarah restless, she lay in the vast bed, moonlight spilling through the window, casting shadows on the white walls. William was in Miami, leaving her alone with the crushing silence. Her eyes drifted to the nightstand, where his secondary phone, the one he claimed was for international business, sat charging. Suddenly the screen lit up, not with a call, but a notification. Sarah leaned over, her heart pounding like a war drum. The words stood stark. Isabella, 4 Seasons, 10 o'clock p.m. The name, Isabella, cut like a razor, slashing through the fragile shell of the fairy tale she'd built. She sat there, breath caught in her throat, feeling the world crumble beneath her. The vision of a happy family, days strolling Malibu's beaches with her daughter, all dissolved, leaving a chilling void. Sarah's fairy tale wasn't just fracturing, it had been betrayed. Sarah Bennett was not the naive, easily deceived wife William Carter believed her to be. Behind her gentle gaze and subtle smile lay a razor-sharp intellect, a mind that once made financial fraudsters tremble. Before becoming Mrs. Carter, living in the opulent Malibu mansion, Sarah was a brilliant data analyst in Seattle, working for a leading tech firm. She specialized in tracing shady financial transactions, unraveling labyrinths of numbers that hid corruption and deceit. Each spreadsheet, each line of code was a story, and Sarah was a master storyteller, reading secrets others could never see. When she met William, she set it all aside, believing his love could fill the void left by long days at the computer screen. But now, as cracks appeared in their marriage, her old skills stirred, like a blade sharpened after years of dormancy. Seated in the home office, a pristine white room with walnut bookshelves and soft light from a desk lamp, Sarah felt her heartbeat steady, no longer frantic as it was the night she saw Isabella's message. The pain lingered, a smoldering burn beneath her skin, but it didn't break her. Instead of confronting William, shouting to shatter the house's silence, she chose a different path, one of quiet calculation. She knew words could be twisted, but numbers never lied. If William was hiding something, she would uncover it, not with tears, but with the skills that once defined her pride. Sarah powered on her encrypted laptop, a device she rarely touched since her marriage. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, swift and precise, like an artist returning to a piano after a long absence. She began tracing William's assets, peeling back layers of his financial maze. Bank accounts in New York, trust funds in Nevada, shell companies registered under meaningless names, all unfolded before her like a tangled painting she could not be deterred from deciphering. William, in his arrogance, had granted her access to some primary accounts early in their marriage, a romantic gesture to show trust. He never imagined she had the ability to understand, let alone unravel his system. Amid the numbers and transactions, Sarah uncovered a detail that froze her blood. A shell company, registered in Delaware, had paid for a luxurious penthouse in Miami, a place William never mentioned. The multi-million-dollar apartment wasn't a typical investment. It was a secret, a hideaway beyond her sight. Sarah dug deeper, her mind cold as a machine, though her heart still twisted in agony. She found credit card statements from an account she'd never known, documenting extravagant expenses, dinners at five-star restaurants, first-class flight tickets, and gifts from high-end jewelry stores. The recipient wasn't William, but Isabella Rossi, the name that had flashed across his phone screen like a blade. Each bill was a cut, each transaction a confirmation that William hadn't just betrayed her, but had built a parallel life where she didn't exist. Sarah sat there, the laptop's glow casting light on her face, her eyes glinting not with tears, but with a new fire, a fire of awakening. She was no longer the wife waiting for her husband in a lavish mansion. She was Sarah Bennett, the data analyst, and she would wield her own weapons to expose the man who had underestimated her. Sarah Bennett glided softly through the marble-lined hallway of the Malibu mansion, where wall sconces cast light on abstract paintings, creating patches of shadow and glow that mirrored her troubled mind. She was heading to the kitchen, seeking a cup of chamomile tea to soothe her pregnancy-induced insomnia, when a low, steady hum of sound drifted from William's home office. The heavy oak door, which he boasted as a symbol of luxury, stood slightly ajar, revealing a sliver of space. Sarah paused, not out of curiosity, but driven by a sharp premonition, like a needle piercing her chest. William's voice, cold and cutting, sliced through the silent air, carrying words she was never prepared to hear. She pressed closer to the door, her breath so faint it was almost inaudible, as if she feared her racing heartbeat might betray the truth unfolding before her. William wasn't discussing real estate deals or stock prices, as she'd often heard him do. He was talking about her future, about their unborn daughter. "The prenup will give her 500 grand, a paltry sum," William said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion, as if he were discussing a returned item. "But the baby complicates things. We need to control the narrative, James. We'll build a case that she's unstable, hormonally erratic, unfit to be a mother." Sarah froze, her body locked in that moment, only her heart pounding wildly, as if it might shatter her ribcage. James Harper, William's lawyer, whom she'd met at cocktail parties with his counterfeit smile, responded through the speakerphone, his voice raspy but icy. "We can request a psych evaluation. Once we have leverage over the child, she'll surrender. She'll take the 500 grand and disappear. She might see the girl a few times a year, if she behaves." Each word struck like a hammer, smashing the last fragments of the dream Sarah had built. William wasn't just betraying her with trips to Miami or Isabella's perfume. He was plotting to erase her from his life, to reduce her to a shadow, a mother stripped of her own child. The pain wasn't just a feeling, it was a physical force, choking her breath, making her knees tremble. She gripped the cold wall to steady herself, her other hand instinctively shielding her belly, where her little girl rested, blissfully unaware of her father's cruel scheme. Sarah had thought William's betrayal was the limit of her pain, but she was wrong. This wasn't just emotional deceit. He planned to steal the most sacred thing she had, her daughter, the only piece left of her shattered heart. The thought that he would use his wealth and power to slander her, to brand her an unfit mother, set her blood boiling. Yet, amid the flood of anguish, something else rose. A pure, razor-sharp fury, honed like a blade in the fire. It didn't explode in screams or tears. It was quiet, but fierce, like an ember ready to incinerate everything. Sarah stepped back from the door, each movement deliberate, her eyes gleaming not with despair but with a newfound resolve. William had underestimated her, believing her a docile wife, easily manipulated. But he'd forgotten she was once a warrior in the world of data, and now she would wield every weapon at her disposal to protect her daughter and reclaim what was hers. In the desk drawer, Sarah retrieved a disposable phone, a simple device she'd bought with cash at a Los Angeles store weeks earlier. It held no history, no trace, merely a tool to connect with the one person she trusted implicitly. Mia Bennett, her sister, a cybersecurity genius living in a cluttered apartment in Portland, Oregon. Mia was a digital prodigy, seeing the world through lines of code and firewalls, slipping into any system like a shadow. She'd always despised William, calling him a vain man in an expensive suit from their first meeting. Sarah had once laughed it off, dismissing Mia's suspicions as sibling jealousy, but now, she realized Mia had seen the truth she herself had been blind to. Sarah powered on the phone, her fingers darting across the keypad, typing an encrypted message, brief but heavy with meaning. "Operation Phoenix. Are you in?" The phrase was a relic of their childhood, when the sisters played spies, plotting daring adventures in their backyard. Phoenix was their code for a grand plan, a rebirth from ashes. And now, it carried a new weight. Sarah sent the message, her heart beating steadily, not from fear, but from a fierce conviction that Mia would not refuse. Less than a minute later, the screen lit up with a reply. "For you, I'd tear down the world." No hesitation, no questions, just the unwavering loyalty of a sister ready to stand up for her. In that moment, Sarah felt a surge of new strength coursing through her, as if a dormant part of her had been reawakened after years of slumber. She was no longer the betrayed wife, alone in the Malibu mansion. She was part of an alliance, a machine driven by intellect and shared fury. Sarah and Mia, though separated by hundreds of miles, began sketching a plan to dismantle William's financial empire. They were a perfect combination. Sarah, with her razor-sharp data analysis, could trace money through labyrinths of bank accounts and shell companies. Mia, with her hacking prowess, could breach firewalls and encryption like an artist crossing a canvas. Together, they didn't just want to hurt William. They wanted to strip him of everything, from wealth to power, from reputation to his smug self-assurance. Their plan was not a hasty heist or an impulsive act of revenge. It was a meticulously calculated campaign, demanding the precision of a surgical strike. Sarah listed the targets: bank accounts in New York, trust funds in Nevada, investment portfolios in Chicago. Mia prepared the tools: virtual private networks to conceal their tracks, software to intercept authentication codes, and a new digital identity for Sarah when it was all over. In the darkness of the office, Sarah felt the pulse of a war about to begin. She no longer trembled at the thought of William. She was preparing to bring him to his knees. William Carter, the betraying husband, departed at dawn, boarding his private jet to Miami for a retreat, a flimsy lie masking his trip with Isabella Rossi. He left Sarah alone in the opulent Malibu mansion, confident she remained the obedient wife, oblivious to the secret world he'd built. But William was wrong. While he slumbered on the flight, dreaming of lavish days with his mistress Sarah and her sister Mia, stood ready to tear down his empire from within. Time was both foe and ally. Sarah knew she had 8 hours, while William drifted in the skies, far from his accounts and systems, to execute her plan. She felt her heartbeat, not with fear, but with a razor-sharp focus, like a hunter poised to strike a fatal blow. On the desk, a cold coffee cup and a disposable phone linked her to Mia, working from her apartment in Portland, Oregon. Through an encrypted call, Mia's voice rang out. calm yet charged with energy. "We're ready, sis. Go for it." Sarah nodded, though her sister couldn't see, and began. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, swift as an artist playing a flawless sonata. She logged into William's bank and investment accounts, using passwords she'd deduced from his arrogant habits. William, smug in his belief of invincibility, often used variations of the same password, a blend of his company name and birthday. Sarah had quietly memorized them from moments he'd carelessly revealed, and now they were the keys to his treasure. But the accounts weren't guarded by passwords alone. Two-factor authentication was the final barrier, and this was where Mia shone. From Portland, Mia operated like a digital phantom, intercepting the authentication codes sent to William's phone, now useless in airplane mode. She rerouted them through a maze of virtual servers, from Tokyo to Amsterdam, crafting an untraceable digital labyrinth. Each code flashed on Sarah's screen like a small victory, a step closer to her goal. She entered them, each digit a silent dagger piercing William's empire. Bank accounts in New York, trust funds in Delaware, stock portfolios in the Caymans, all opened before her, like a book violated. Sarah didn't rush. She transferred over $600 million with a surgeon's precision, breaking the transactions into smaller sums to evade alerts. The money flowed through a labyrinth of shell companies she'd quietly taken control of. Invisible entities William once used to hide his wealth. From New York, funds leaped to a company in Nevada, then a middleman account in Luxembourg, before landing safely in a secret Swiss account under a new entity Sarah created. Each transfer was a pulse of the plan, each number a declaration that she was no longer a victim. In those 8 hours, Sarah and Mia were a perfect machine, blending Sarah's analytical brilliance with Mia's technical genius. When the final transaction cleared, Sarah leaned back in her chair, her breathing steady but heavy, as if she'd just sprinted across a battlefield. She gently rubbed her belly, feeling her daughter's presence, and a faint smile crossed her lips. William was still sleeping, thousands of miles away, unaware that his world had been erased. Sarah had forged her fury into a weapon, and she was only getting started. She was no longer the trembling wife cowering before William Carter's betrayal. She was a warrior, having just executed a devastating financial strike, draining over $600 million from his empire while he slept soundly on his flight to Miami. But before leaving, Sarah wanted to leave a mark, not to boast, but to declare that she had awakened, and he would never forget it. She stepped toward the jewelry cabinet, where the diamond ring William had given her on their first anniversary rested in a black velvet box. He had slipped it onto her finger, calling it a symbol of eternal love, but now that glittering stone was merely a reminder of his lies. Sarah held the ring, feeling its cold weight in her palm. With a resolute motion, she flung it to the bedroom floor. The diamond rolled gently, its facets catching the light, sparkling like a broken curse, a symbol of the gilded cage she had just freed herself from. It lay there, solitary on the floor, like a relic of a marriage long dead. Sarah turned to the king-size bed, where she and William had once shared moments she believed were loving. From her pocket, she drew an ultrasound image, the hazy outline of her unborn daughter, with tiny hands and a beating heart. This was why she fought, the flame that had turned her pain into strength. She placed the image neatly on William's pillow, without a single crease, like a silent declaration of war. When he returned, he would see it. Not a plea, but a statement that she would protect her daughter at all costs, and he had forfeited his place in their future. She entered the dressing room, where haute couture dresses and designer bags hung like paintings in a gallery. Sarah took nothing but essentials. She packed a small suitcase, a few simple outfits, a new passport under an identity Mia had prepared, and an encrypted hard drive holding data from the financial transactions she'd just executed. Each item was a brick in the path to a new life, where she was no longer Mrs. Carter, but a free woman. She checked everything, her heart beating steadily, not from anxiety, but from a profound sense of liberation. She had reclaimed control, not just over William's money, but over her own destiny. Sarah descended the grand staircase, her footsteps echoing softly in the vast expanse of the mansion. She didn't look back, refusing to let emotion slow her. In the foyer, she placed the house keys on the marble table, directly beneath their wedding portrait. A photo where her smile was now just a distant memory. The front door closed behind her, without a sound, as if the house itself understood she no longer belonged here. Outside, an untraceable car, arranged by Mia, waited. Sarah stepped in, her gaze fixed forward, where the Malibu horizon faded into darkness. William, thousands of miles away, was still dreaming of a glamorous future with Isabella in Miami, unaware that when he landed, his world would be reduced to ashes. Sarah, suitcase in hand and daughter within her, left behind not just an empty house, but a message carved deep. She was no longer a victim, and he would pay for underestimating her. William Carter awoke in the luxurious Miami penthouse, where morning sunlight streamed through vast glass windows, bathing the white silk sheets and glossy walnut floors in a golden glow. Beside him, Isabella Rossi slept soundly, her hair cascading across the pillow like a work of art. Just hours earlier, they had laughed and jested under the dim glow of a five-star restaurant, sipping costly wine and dreaming of lavish days ahead. William, with his smug smile, felt like the master of the universe, a man who had it all: wealth, power, and a secret he believed his wife, Sarah Bennett, would never uncover. But as the sunlight touched his eyes, a vague unease crept in, as if the air in the room had shifted, growing heavy and suffocating. The nightmare began at Les Cyrenus, the restaurant where William took Isabella to flaunt his extravagance. When he handed his sleek black credit card to the waiter, his smile froze at the response. "Sir, your card has been declined." He frowned, irritation surging like a wave. "Run it again," he ordered, his voice sharp and cold, assuming it was a mere technical glitch. But the second attempt, then the third, yielded the same result. Isabella, seated across from him, offered a strained smile, her eyes betraying confusion. William pulled out another card, a backup from his company account, but it too was useless. A tiny crack appeared in his confident facade, and for the first time in years, he felt a spark of panic. Back at the penthouse, William opened his laptop, his hands trembling slightly as he logged into his banking app. The screen displayed a balance, 0. His primary account in New York, his secondary account in Delaware, all empty, as if they had never existed. He tried accessing his company email, but the password failed. The server holding his real estate data was locked, like a fortress that had changed hands. His heart pounded, sweat beading on his forehead. He called his private banker in Manhattan, a man he paid thousands monthly to ensure everything ran smoothly. The man's voice on the other end was low and tense. "Mr. Carter, we've checked. Your entire liquid wealth, over $600 million, was transferred out overnight, starting at 11 p.m. yesterday. The transactions used your credentials. There's no sign of external intrusion." The words hit like a hammer, leaving William reeling. He sank into a leather chair, his gaze vacant, struggling to grasp the incomprehensible. This wasn't a random hack, not the work of some faceless cybercriminal. This was a precise attack, executed with the ruthlessness of a surgeon. And then, like a lightning bolt tearing through fog, a name flashed in his mind. Sarah. Sarah Bennett, the wife he had underestimated, the one he thought cared only for nursery decor and curtain colors. Could she, with her gentle eyes and reserved smile, have done this? The thought chilled him, as if he'd glimpsed a phantom in the mirror. William gripped his phone tightly, dialing Sarah's number, his hands shaking so much he nearly dropped it. The phone rang, but no one answered. Only her cold voicemail greeting echoing, her voice calm, as if mocking him from a place he couldn't reach. He tried again, this time calling the Malibu mansion's landline. But only an empty ring reverberated through the house he now knew had lost her. The truth weighed on him like a boulder. Sarah hadn't just left him. She had taken everything, his money, his power, and the future he thought was untouchable. In the lavish penthouse, William Carter, the real estate tycoon, felt small, powerless, and utterly defeated by the woman he had misjudged. Sarah Bennett, now bearing the identity of Emily Harper, stepped into a small wooden cabin in Bozeman, Montana, where snow-capped mountains stood tall like silent guardians. Gone was the opulent Malibu mansion, with its glass walls and crystal chandeliers. In its place was her simple home, with rustic wooden floors and a fireplace radiating gentle warmth. Through the window, the sunset gilded the sprawling fields, bringing a sense of freedom she had never known in the years trapped in William Carter's gilded cage. Each breath in Montana's crisp air was a declaration. She had escaped, not just from him, but from the old version of herself. Emily lived simply, like an ordinary local. She wore thick sweaters, bought vegetables from the farmer's market, and walked along winding trails, where birdsong drowned out memories of painful days. But beneath her calm exterior, her mind remained razor-sharp, ever vigilant. She tracked William's downfall through financial articles on an old laptop, headlines screaming of an unprecedented cyber theft targeting the real estate tycoon. Each line was a small cut, not because she reveled in his ruin, but because it reminded her of her victory, of how she had safeguarded her daughter's future. Sitting by the fireplace, she scrolled through niche financial blogs, where analysts speculated about a mysterious criminal organization. No one suspected a pregnant woman hiding in a small Montana town. But Emily's freedom was not absolute. She knew William, with his fury and resources, would not easily surrender. To protect herself and her daughter, she relied on Mia, her sister in Portland, who had crafted a sophisticated digital shield, a dead man's switch in cyberspace. If Emily failed to log into a secure server every 48 hours, a cache of secret documents, evidence of William's illegal transactions, from money laundering to tax evasion, would automatically be sent to the FBI and major news outlets like the New York Times and CNN. These documents, painstakingly gathered by Sarah during long nights tracing William's assets, were her ultimate weapon, a warning that any move against her would trigger his complete destruction. Mia, with her cybersecurity genius, ensured the system was impenetrable, a digital fortress safeguarding her sister's new life. Emily sat in an armchair, her hands cradling her belly, feeling the gentle kicks of her daughter, like the pulses of a new life taking shape. Each movement was a reminder of why she fought, of the fierce love that had transformed her from a betrayed wife into an unrelenting warrior. She whispered, her voice soft as the breeze sweeping through Montana's fields. "We're safe now, my love." But deep down, she knew safety was fragile. Each login to the dead man's switch sent a surge of adrenaline through her, as if she were walking a tightrope between freedom and danger. William might be hunting her, and though she had covered her tracks meticulously, she never let her guard down. The wooden cabin, with its plain walls and faint scent of pine, was where Emily found peace. But it was not a place of hiding. She had chosen Bozeman not just for its beauty, but for its isolation, a vantage point where she could watch from afar and prepare for any storm William might bring. Each day, she learned to live with her new identity, to love her unborn daughter without being haunted by the past. But in her eyes, a spark still flickered, the spark of a woman who had reclaimed her life and would never let it be stolen again. Emily Harper, the new name of Sarah Bennett, sat in a sunlit wooden cabin in Bozeman, Montana, where golden light poured through the window, caressing the contours of her face. The small room, warm with the faint scent of pine and the crackling of the fireplace, was where she found peace after the storm of betrayal and revenge. But even in this tranquility, her mind remained razor-sharp, always poised for the final move in the chess game she had played with William Carter. She had drained his financial empire, stripping away over $600 million, leaving him in the ashes of his power. Yet Sarah didn't seek to destroy him entirely. She wanted him to live with the truth that she had defeated him, and to live with the choice she was about to force upon him. From an old laptop on the wooden table, Emily composed an email, her fingers gliding over the keyboard with the calm assurance of someone who held victory in their grasp. The email was brief, but each word cut deep, like chisel strikes carving into William's fate. It contained a divorce agreement, drafted with the precision of a lawyer and the ruthlessness of a warrior. She would keep $60 million in a trust fund for their daughter, ensuring the child's future relied on no one else. The rest, over $500 million, would be returned to William, but at a cost. He must sign the agreement, relinquish all parental rights, and vow never to seek her or their daughter. Attached to the email was a link to a secure server holding William's secret documents, proof of his illegal dealings, from money laundering to tax evasion, enough to ruin his reputation and send him to prison. The password to access it: Isabella. His mistress's name. A final blow, sharp as a blade, reminding him of the betrayal that led to his own downfall. The email was sent, and Emily closed the laptop, a wave of relief spreading through her like a cool breeze across a Montana valley. She knew William, though drowning in rage in Miami, had no other choice. She had cornered him, not with violence, but with intellect and resilience. Across the continent, William received the email in a penthouse now cold and hollow, his eyes vacant as he read each line. The link led him to the documents, and as he typed Isabella, his heart seemed to constrict. Before him were his darkest secrets, neatly arranged like an indictment. He realized that refusing the agreement meant losing not just money, but everything. Reputation, freedom, all of it. With trembling hands, William signed the agreement, each stroke of the pen a cut into the pride he once thought untouchable. He survived, but only as a shadow of himself, a man stripped of power, prestige, and the child he once planned to use to control Sarah. In the wooden cabin, Emily sat by the crib, watching her little girl sleep soundly, her tiny face peaceful as a drifting cloud. Sunlight danced through the child's soft hair, and Emily felt a profound serenity. She had reclaimed her life, not just by taking what William valued, but by building a future where she and her daughter were free. She didn't need to shout to be heard, didn't need to destroy to triumph. She had chosen to rewrite her story, and that was the greatest victory of all. Sarah's journey is not merely about revenge, it's a story of reclaiming her own worth. She teaches us that true strength lies not in loud cries, but in quiet resilience, in the fierce love of a mother, and in choosing to rewrite your own narrative. As the philosopher Rumi once said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." If this story has touched your heart, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to discover more inspiring journeys. You've stayed until the end. Perhaps your own story is waiting to be written.